There's one coaching vacancy. You can guess which team is still looking for a new head coach. And with that, we welcome you in to another edition, a Tuesday 2-hour edition of NFL Now on NFL Network. Yes, we will get you everything that you need to know. We'll hear from the coaches and players as we get ready for divisional weekend. But first, say hello to Joe Judge, the man on the left, not the guy on the right with the cutoff sleeves. Joe Judge is the new head coach of the New York Giants, former special teams coordinator and wide receiver coach with the Patriots, with whom he has 3 Super Bowl rings. He also has 2 rings as a low-level Alabama assistant under Nick Saban, former Mississippi State backup quarterback. Some had linked him to that job, but no. Minutes after the Panthers picked Matt Rule, more on that in a second. It's Joe Judge. And for Mike Garafolo, who texted me, all rise. You happy? You like that? Garafolo and Ian Rappaport. The back page headline writers just recycle all the Aaron Judge headlines. And Ian, Joe Judge, how do we get there?
Yeah, Joe Judge. Listen to how we got there. This doesn't start today with the New York Giants, although they are hiring Judge in the process of doing it right now. This actually starts with Bill Belichick plucking Judge off Nick Saban's staff, identifying him very early on as a future head coach, and meeting with him on a regular basis, basically weekly, going over different ways to build a program, how to be a head coach, taking Judge under his wing and schooling him, believing that this is a guy who's going to have major success as a head coach in the NFL. So when Judge interviewed with the Giants, most people probably didn't care. It was considered a long shot. Belichick cared, and obviously the impact he made on the Giants was a big-time one. Yeah, he did have an offer at Mississippi State to become their head coach. I know this hire by the Giants is something that my wife, also a State alum, is very frustrated with. He waited, he got the offer from the Giants, and Mike, he is taking it out of nowhere, a former special teams coach, the new head coach of the Giants.
Well, if Leah Rappaport had listened to her husband, she wouldn't be this disappointed. She would have expected it because Ian was one of the few people that actually was telling us.
Wait. To be specific here, you're talking about the Giants' job with the bank. Bankers listening to Ian, right? That's the only. Okay, just make sure.
Well, yes. Yeah. Right. Oh, yeah. He was telling us that I think Joe Judge has a shot, and we said you're crazy. It's the Matt Rule show and Josh McDaniels and Mike McCarthy. I mean, we threw all these names out. Why would Joe Judge jump all these guys? Well, some of those guys went elsewhere. The Josh McDaniels thing never really got off the ground. Didn't the previous time, too. Remember when they hired Pat Shurmur? He was allegedly a candidate here. So Ian's been saying this behind the scenes for sure, that Joe Judge had a shot. And, Andrew, you asked me when we did a breaking news segment after this news broke a short while ago, what's the reaction around the league going to be?
It was actually Will Selva.
Actually, you were dressed as Will. Yeah, you were dressed as Will Selva at the time.
It's been a long morning. Myself. We thank you guys for scrambling. It's okay.
You've called me Steve Weish on the air one time, so I'm allowed one mistake. Anyway, to answer Will's question about the reaction around the league, I've now gotten some time to actually gather it. Special teams coaches around the league are saying, hey, go Judge, go, because they want to see a special teamer succeed as a head coach, because for a long time they've been talking about, hey, everybody passes us over. They don't realize that we've got head coaching potential. They want the hot, young offensive coordinator in a lot of cases. So special teams coaches going to be rooting for Joe Judge. Some folks are saying, boy, where did this come from? This guy doesn't seem ready to be a head coach. But here's the other thing, and here's the most important thing. The Giants clearly talked to Bill Belichick before this happened. And Bill Belichick has got the utmost respect for the New York Giants organization. So you know what he told them, and they have that endorsement in their back pocket. We'll see if Belichick and the Giants are right here.
And Ian,
Andrew, one thing here I want to get in real quick. The Giants had a chance to hire. We're going to talk about Matt Rule in a second, but the Giants had a chance to hire Matt Rule. From what I understand, he let them know the Panthers offer, which at the time was a 6-year offer that he informed the Giants of. They decided to pass on Rule and go with Joe Judge. That is how this happened. That is why he is the Giants coach. Obviously, these guys are going to be compared to each other in history, but that is how the Giants ended up with Joe Judge.
And the truth serum will one day come out. Did they pass on him because they thought the contract was excessive, or did they pass on him because they wanted Joe Judge instead. The Panthers and the Giants don't play this year, alas. And we will get to the Matt Rule news, I promise, coming up shortly. I should also work in the Cowboys just made it official. They will introduce Mike McCarthy tomorrow at 3 o'clock local, 4 o'clock Eastern time. Mike McCarthy, the officially new head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. A little more perspective now on Joe Judge, again, 38 years old, special teams coach. For those who say special teams coaches can't do it, Charlie Casserly, John Harbaugh has his team at 14-2 and the number 1 seed in the AFC. Others have come before him. Bill Cowher rings a bell as well. He's won the whole thing. How does Joe Judge, though, going from a special teams and a wide receiver coach, win over his new locker room?
Well, I'll tell you what here. Hang on a second, Mr.
Okay.
Right here. Here's the 5-point plan, right? Okay. I had the Joe Judge card. Now we go to the 5-point plan. All right, number 1, resume. Now, the resume lasts you about one day, okay? But at least he's got a resume, New England Patriots. So, hey, we might listen to this guy. Number 2, Tom Coughlin said you only get one chance to make a first impression. So the first impression every time is message. You have to back it up with accountability. It has to reach the players. You have to get to know the players. But your staff is going to be the one to teach. Now, here's what's interesting. Most special teams coaches, when you interview them, don't have a clue on where to go with the staff. They think they do, but it's not good ideas. Joe Judge is going to be like Harbaugh. You watch this now. Remember, Joe Judge was a special teams coach. Harbaugh, a special teams coach. Harbaugh, and I knew Harbaugh before he became the head coach. He becomes a defensive backfield coach. Kind of just changed the resume a little bit. Belichick has taken this guy under his wing. We've talked about that. Other reporters have. He's allowed him to become part of the offensive staff. That kind of advances him a little bit. But he's going to surprise you, I'll bet you, and hire a good staff. Most of these guys don't. He might surprise you with some of the names he's going to bring to you now. This guy's a communicator. He's a leader. He's got presence.
The Patriots had one of the better special teams units in the NFL this year. Obviously, Matthew Slater is always going to the Pro Bowl. He's not the only one, obviously, who stands out on that team. Their wide receivers have as many have pointed out, have underachieved this year, aside from Julian Edelman. Charlie Casserly, stay there. More coming up from Charlie a little bit later. Here's a little Joe Judge perspective. He was promoted to the special teams coordinator in 2015. Again, he is also coaching wearing blue on the blue screen there. What do you think of this? Actually, no. What do they think of this, Shaun, in the building right now?
Yeah, Andrew, there's certainly a lot of buzz right now with the news coming down. Obviously, the news earlier today that Matt Rule was taking the Carolina job. So, there's been kind of a shift now with Joe Judge being announced. And I think when you look at the announcement, and everybody, you guys just talked about how he's a special teams coordinator. He's been the special teams coach. You look at his resume, and he was with Nick Saban for a few years down in Alabama. He's been up with Bill Belichick with the Patriots, won 3 Super Bowls there. What he is bringing to the Giants is a totally different philosophy in terms of the physical play. And I think that's the one thing that I keep hearing in the building right now is, what is Joe Judge bringing? He's bringing a different style. And I think that the physical play on both sides of the football is going to feel that immediate impact from him coming in. You just heard Charlie talking about the coordinators. Who is he going to bring in? And I think when you look at this hire, the interesting aspect of it to me is they're hiring someone to come in and be the head coach, not slash. It's head coach. You're going to hire an offensive coordinator. You're going to hire a defensive coordinator. The last 2 head coaches have been slash offensive coordinators. That has not worked out so well. So those are things that you're hearing inside the building. But definitely it looks like the Joe Judge relationship with Dave Gettleman is going to marry nicely. Dave Gettleman has spent a lot of draft equity in the last couple of years at building the defensive line. He's tried to fix the offensive line and bring in some hog mollies and some big fellas. I think those players and that personnel should match up nicely with Joe Judge and his philosophies.
Shaun, you've seen this before. Often when a team hires a new head coach, they go totally opposite of what they had in the past. Pat Shurmur, as you said, was the slash guy. He was the head coach slash offensive coordinator. Where does Joe Judge fit in that cycle? Is he going to be, from what you understand, a vastly different leader than what they had with Pat Shurmur?
I think that's kind of yet to be determined. How is he going to handle the players? I think he's absolutely a motivator. You don't get a reference from Nick Saban if you don't have some passion about you, if you don't have some motivating qualities. And then for Bill Belichick to endorse you as well, you've got to be bringing something to the table if he's willing to put his neck out there and his reputation on the line. And then when you talk to the Giants here, they were wowed by the interview. Now you look at how many interviews the Giants just had with different coaches, Chris Richard, and these different coaches that were out there available. For him to come in and wow the ownership and Dave Gettleman, I think that says a lot about Joe Judge and the type of person he is. So I think from a philosophy standpoint, whether he's involved in the offensive side of the football, which apparently he was involved in the passing game in New England. It's not a guy who's not going to be involved in some capacity with that. But I think in addition to the passing game aspect, he's been heavily involved in a lot of the game situations. I was watching the playoff game just like you, Andrew, Tennessee Titans, New England Patriots, and every time there was a big decision to be made on the field, they kept showing Bill Belichick on the sideline, and he was talking to somebody, and rather somebody was telling him what was going on in the situation. And I kept saying, man, who is that he's talking to? Turns out it was Joe Judge.
I'm going to read, Shaun, and say goodbye by reading a text that you just sent. By the way, nice looking suit. You said, who needs a ruling, R-H-U-L-I-N-G, when you can have a judge? That's punny. You're good.
I thought that was between us. Apparently nothing is sacred, just like your selfie that you took right before the segment.
That wasn't a selfie, but you could tweet it if you want to. Thank you, Shaun O'Hara.
Sorry, maybe that was.